Welcome back to SharePoint Charts Complete Training. We're going to be doing an interesting one today. We're going to be looking at mapping. Maps are the most common kind of chart. We look at these just about every single day, most often the GPS in our cars, but of course on web pages those maps are very useful. We're going to see how to embed maps into our SharePoint site. We've got multiple map templates that we can work with. We're specifically going to look at 3 Google Maps related templates. There are also additional templates using the Bing Maps API. So let's go ahead and begin. So here I am back in my SharePoint Charts training site. And for this training, we're going to go ahead and create our list from scratch in this site for what we're going to be doing. You should have your training page open, which has some important references that you need to check out. The first thing I should tell you, you cannot begin this training unless you have your Google Maps API key. The good news is that the key is free. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, go to the Google Maps API page and get your key first. Once you have that, you'll be ready to go. You can return back and begin the training. So to begin, we need a new list. I'm going to go ahead and create that from my home page, a blank list, and I would simply call it Google Maps. And I'm going to uncheck Show in Site Navigation. I've created that. And I'm going to grab this URL, everything before that question mark. I'm going to go back to my home page and I'm going to make a link to that, as I have been doing for all my other charts that I've been setting up. So I'm going to add a link and paste. And then I want to change my icon to show something mapping related. So I'll do a search for map. Alright, there's an accordion looking map. Let's see if we see anything better. That looks pretty good to me. Well, we're going to be doing push pins, so maybe I'll do that one. Okay, so now I've got my quick link. I've highlighted that. I'm just going to move that down to the end of my list and republish my page. And now I can get to my Google Maps easily. Our templates are going to use the title column. That's going to be common. And then we're also going to be having a column for location. So I'm just going to create some fields directly from my list view. Click Add Column. I need a text field, and that's going to be called Location. Single line of text, that's fine, and save. Okay, so I also want to go ahead and create different views for what I'm doing. So we're going to be working on 3 templates, starting from simple to medium to more advanced. So I'm going to open up my first SharePoint Dashboards Google Cards map template. You can see a preview of how that's going to turn out. This one's pretty easy. It just needs a field reference for whatever we're using for location. So I've got already the fields that I need for this. I'm going to go ahead and make a new view. So save view as, and I'll call this first view map cards. Very nice. And then let's go ahead and get a location added just to get the ball rolling. So I'm going to go ahead and do title. I'm going to say Times Square. And then the location is quite flexible. The Google Maps API allows you to enter addresses, common or famous locations. You can put a zip code. You can just list cities, all kinds of different options there. It's going to go ahead and interpret that, do that. You can even put latitude and longitude coordinates separated by a comma. So I can put Times Square for location, and that's good enough. It's going to understand that. So I'm going to save that. we've got a location loaded, and then I can return back to my template. And I do, of course, need to provide my API key. Okay, so I've got that at the ready. You should too. I'm going to just paste that in, copying and pasting that in. So I just select all and paste. So there is my Google key, and we should have enough to go ahead and get the ball rolling. I need to insert the reference to my location field, which I just called location. Easy enough. And then I can return back to SharePoint, format current view, advanced mode, select all, paste, and save. There we go. So there's Times Square. And then if I click the edit button, that would let me get in there. And notice that when I hover over that, there's a change of color. That means that I can click that link. It'll open up the Google Maps page for me to go there. So also have that option as well. So let's go ahead and make some adjustments. Let's see what different kinds of things we can do in terms of formatting. There are some interesting options available. So of course we can want to change the map size. So let's try making that wider. I'll leave the height alone just to see the effect of that. So I can just reapply the template, come back over here, select all, paste, and save. Okay, that just makes the map wider. And then I can do other adjustments as well. The zoom level, that's an important one. So this can go, you can see a slider that kind of shows you the smaller the number, the more zoomed out you are. And then the higher the number, the more zoomed in you are. So this is a very zoomed in mode that I just set it to. And then the other thing I'm able to do is use different map types. We've got 4, so you can experiment with those just to see what they look like. So let's do hybrid. Let's try that. I'm going to copy the template and then just reapply it. Okay, so that's interesting. I've got kind of a combination of markers on a map, and then I also see kind of a 3D view based on satellite imagery. And I can have multiple cards. So I could come in here and say, you know, I can use the White House one. So there's an example here. I could just paste that address and come back over here and say, all right, let's do the White House. And this time we're providing it a street address, and save. And those cards will just stack up going down the page. So there's the White House. So already we're off and running. So in terms of the configuration options, you can play around with it. Another question is how many cards you want to show per row. You can also decide whether or not you want the title showing. Normally you would want to use that title field. And then of course you can do things like tweak the background color of the card if you want that to look different for whatever reason. You've got different options there as well. You can adjust the border color. So the area surrounding the map can be adjusted, font size as well. So you can play with those settings. Those should already be pretty familiar to you based on other templates. So we're off and running with the first of the 3 templates that we're looking at. These are the, this is just the regular map cards. I should note also there are Google Map tiles which you can show in a column if you just want that. So that's another related template. You can find that in the mapping section on the gallery page. And basically it works from the same principle. It's just that it's going to show in a specific column instead of it being a view template as we're doing here. So we're done with the card template. Let's go ahead and move on to the next to keep our training going. So you need to open up the next, which is the Google Pushpins map template. Now this one combines information about multiple locations on one card. So we need to set up some fields for that. So we need to go back to our list, and we're going to go ahead and make a new view. So I'm going to go back to all items. I'll do save view as, and we're going to be doing push pins map. So I'll just call this view push pins and save. And then we need more locations for this. So this is an idea of showing multiple locations on one map. So I'm going to create columns for that. I'm going to create more text fields. And so I'll call this one location 2 and save, and I'll make 2 more. We'll do another text field called location 3 and save, and then 1 more. We'll do a text field called location 4. There it is. Okay. And I'm going to do 1 more field to indicate which of these records are from my push pins map. So I'm going to add a yes, no field called push pins. This will let me indicate whether I'm doing one for push pins. So I'll default that to no. Okay, and then I need to edit that view. So I'm going to edit that view. And I'm going to make it where these are only going to be records filtered to where push pins equals yes. In other words, I don't want to use the records I just created for my map cards for this view. Normally you'd be doing separate lists for all this. Okay, so you can see I don't see any records anymore because I need to make one for push pins. Okay, so I've got 4 locations. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to make a view and I'm going to call it North Carolina Cities. Okay, and then I'm going to put in 4 locations. As I mentioned earlier, you can just provide a city and state. That's what I'm going to do in this case. So I'm going to say Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Then I'll do Greensboro, North Carolina. We'll do High Point, and then we'll do 1 more. Let's do Statesville, North Carolina. And I do need to check that box, and this tells it this is a push pins record. And I've got everything I need for this second template that we're working with. So you can tell it could have a lot of push pins. It can have up to 16. We're doing a simple example here, so I'm going to need to change this back down. I don't need 16. I only need 5 fields. I need the title field and 4 location fields. So now I need to put in my field references. So there's title. First location field was just called location, and then we had location 2, location 3, and location 4. Okay, there's my field references. Once again, I need to paste in that API key. This isn't going to work if I copy the template with it saying your Google API key. So be sure you put that in. And then we should have enough to get off and running. So I can copy the template, follow those directions, return back to SharePoint, go to the view selector, format current view, advanced mode, select all, paste, and save. There we go. So I just had 4 push pins on this one, and you see a key down at the bottom. So it says, okay, first one was Winston-Salem, next one's Greensboro, etc. Now you can actually do labels. In fact, I didn't put in the labels, but I'm going to go ahead and update that now. So let me show you what I mean by that. So in the directions, if you scroll down, it tells you each location field must have information entered in this format. Label, whatever kind of text you want, colon, and then the address, or however the information is. In my case, I just put it as city and a state, and that works also. So let me update my information for push pins to enter that information. So let me remove the formatting for the moment, and I'm going to do edit in grid view just to speed things along, and I'll put my label Winston-Salem, and then Greensboro, High Point, and Statesville. Your labels could be whatever you want. It's just something that's going to show in that key below. There, I can exit grid view. Let's go back to the formatting, and now I can reapply the template. Let's make some adjustments. Let's try a different style of map. So just like the other one, I can do different maps. Let's try a satellite map, and we can have different pushpin colors. All right, so let's see what it looks like if I do, I don't know, we'll do green pushpins. Okay, that looks cool. And then I can just copy and come back over to SharePoint, select all, paste, and save. Okay, now I don't see much information there. Depending on what you're doing, that may be the type of map that you're looking for, but when we're zoomed out, that's kind of generic looking. So that means I would just come back over to my template and I'd say, I don't think I want satellite. Let's try to see what the other ones look like. So there's the terrain map. So I just copy and paste after I make the adjustment. I hit select all and paste. Okay, and that's a little bit more meaningful to me. And just like the other one, I can click the link and it'll open up a map in Google Maps, and at that point you can just take off and go from there. Notice this doesn't have a zoom in the map. That's because it's automatically scaling according to your location. So the map is automatically going to scale its zoom according to those push pins. In other words, if those push pins were in a very concentrated specific location area, you'd have a very zoomed in map. If instead they were spread across a very large area, then you're going to see something more like you see here, where I've got locations all across the United States and it's a very zoomed out map. So it handles that part automatically. So there you go. Now you know how to do a push pins map. This will support up to 16 locations. And if you really want to get fancy, you could hook that up to workflow to populate your different locations and do something like that. So we're all set on the pushpin map. Now we're going to go on to the next. The last one we're going to look at is a special street view template. Okay, so this is going to actually show you an interactive map of what it's like if you're standing in this location of the address that you provide. And you can actually interact with this by adjusting settings for the heading and pitch, which is the up and down. So very cool, a different kind of perspective. And this is like our Google Maps cards, except now I have a totally different view and it's interactive. A whole different way of looking at things. So what we need to understand first is, what does this type of template need? This needs the same information for the first two fields, but now it brings in 3 additional fields. These are number fields. One is for heading, one is for field of view, and one is for pitch. All of those are numbers, and if you go into the instructions, it tells you what numbers it's expecting, and that's important because we're getting ready to create these fields and we want to make sure we set those up to match the requirements for this template. So I'm going to go back to SharePoint, and now I want to create another view, and I'm going to call this Street View. Okay, there's Street View. We need 4 columns. So let's go ahead and go back to here, and so we need heading. That should be 0 to 360. So I'll do add column. It's a number column called heading. And then I want it to be 0 decimal places. I need to do more options because I need a min and max on this to match up with the instructions in the template. Okay, so we've got that. There's heading. And then the next one was field of view. I'm going to call it FOV. So that's another number column. I'll hit next and just type FOV. And 0 decimal places, more options. FOV we want to be between 40 and 120. Okay, so that's going to be 40, 120. That's zoom if you want to think about that. You'll see when we start interacting how that works a little bit better. And I want it to default to 120. So let's go ahead and put that in there. All right, so that's going to default to 120. Very good. We've got everything configured right for that one. And then the last one that we need to add was pitch. Pitch is -90 to 90. Okay, so I do add column number, next, and this will be called pitch. Number, 0 decimal places, default value at 0. This is the camera going up or down. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put default 0, -90, and 90. It is important that you follow the instructions and set your fields to match that, otherwise you're not going to get the results that you want. One more column I want to add. I want to add a column that indicates that this particular record is for Street View. So we'll do another one of those yes/no fields, which of course I will call Street View. So I do yes, no, next, and Street View. I'll default it to no, and there we go. We should have everything we need. So now what we should do is go ahead and edit our view, and I want to create records that are just for Street View. So let's do filter where Street View is equal to yes, and I'll save that. Now I'm going to see only Street View records. If I go to my Street View view, see there's no records yet. So let's go ahead and do a new record. I'm going to make another one for Times Square. And I don't need these other values for this one, so I can ignore that. I just need location. This is for Street View. And then the heading, that should just be 0 by default. And then I have already my default values for that, and I should be good to go. Okay, now I can come back. I should have everything I need for my template. Let's verify that. Okay, so I need to put in my field references. So once again, I need the title field, and we're just using that first location field, and then my field names for these other three match up. Was heading, FOV, and pitch. And then just like the other ones, I need to copy and paste in my API key. There you go. So that should be enough to get off and running. Let's take a look. Copy template, and then I can go back to SharePoint, format the current view, advanced, select all, copy, and save. Whoops, not sure what happened there. Try again. Format current view, advanced mode, copy template, and save. There it was. That was strange. I don't know why I got that access. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is an interactive map. So your users can come in here and adjust it. So notice I can click on this and it's going to adjust this heading, and then I can make it go up, and then the zoom, of course, that'll zoom it in. So by default it's zoomed out, but I can adjust that as well. So there you go. All right, so that is Street View. So that's just another type of map you can do. So those are a few different interesting mapping options. And then of course I can go to the mapping section, and it should be mentioned that that's not all. We have Bing Maps also, those, and Bing Map cards, those really work the same way. It's the same type of template, it's just using the Bing Maps API instead of Google Maps, and just like Google Maps, you can get a free key, and then below that you can see there's weather radar maps. That's a different type of a concept. We won't cover that in this training. That corresponds to a weather forecast template as well. So there are some even some more additional templates that you can take advantage of there. All right, so we finished with mapping. That's one of the fun ones. I love mapping templates. It's so cool. I love the API. I love the options that it gives you. And generally speaking, mapping information corresponds to those locations. There's going to be opportunities for you to take advantage of that. And your users don't necessarily anticipate that. So it's really a chance for you to wow your audience and show them something that they didn't expect. They probably didn't expect that you're going to be able to show them mapping information inside of your SharePoint environment. So really impactful display that you can set up for them. So hopefully you can think of some lists and processes with your organization where you can tap into this right away. Good luck.